Begin the current daf, Masech the Shabbos Daf Nun Ches, to begin in the top line of the Yomit. We continue the discussion with the previous daf, discussing the opening parak, the opening daf of the mission of our parak, but Ma'isha regarding what a woman is allowed to or not allowed to go out with to Rishus Harab. Our shir is co-sponsored by Kalzach and Cheskel, to anytime, and the Daf HaChaim. We thank the Olam joining us on Zoom again. So one of the things we're going to speak about in today's daf is regarding on Shabbos, a servant walking out with an emblem. And we're going to talk about two types of emblem, that of which he has hanging from his neck, and that which is on his garment, as we'll discuss. Additionally, the halachas on Shabbos regarding servants or animals walking out with bells, either hanging around their neck or also sewn onto their garments. Again, just like we said regarding the emblems, regarding around the neck or on the garment, so too regarding the bells. And we're going to talk about as their applicability to being mekabel tumah if they're considered a kli or as a takshin. Additionally, we can discuss regarding a bell whose clapper was removed, if that's susceptible to tumah, which a bell has two parts, is the zug and the inbil. This is the zug and this is the inbil. And the question is regarding, is it considered kli or not? Additionally, a shas topic regarding kli avanim, stoneware, kli golem, duneware, kli adama, and earthenware, which is a certain type, which is not kli cheres, but rather from mud. That's not makabel tumah, not biblically and not rabbinically. Another important halacha that comes up many times in the Shas, also a tumah sugya, is kalakelim yerdun de tumasam b'machshava. All vessels could contract, could be susceptible to tumah, even just with a thought, to thinking, okay, this is how I want it to be, and now it's susceptible to tumah. However, they cannot be removed from their status of tumah unless there's an action actually done to it. Just with a thought is not enough to go ahead and do that. So we begin the current daf, Daf Nun Ches Amud Aleph, where we continue on the theme regarding the interpretation and the translation of what does it mean kavod. And that is, we had opened up the previous daf discussing what a woman could go out with and what a woman cannot go out, which is a which is by men too, but just there's a lot of ornaments, a lot of jewelry that we speak about, which was the theme of this previous mission. There were two halachic elements that regarding the category we were concerned someone's going to take it off. You're allowed to go out with them, they're really considered garments. It's not masa, but she might come to take it off. One was regarding the opening halachas of because she has to go to mikveh and it's chatzitza, and that was a large topic of our previous daf. And then the second half was regarding jewelry, chashva jewelry, she might come to take it off and show it to her friends, and therefore we said the tetefes and the sarvitin, the frontlets and the handbangles, if it's not sewn on, she might come to take it off and show it and come to carry it. Fine. The next item was l'loy bekabel, she cannot wear that into Rishus Harab. So what does that mean? So we already mentioned the two tzlagim in the previous talk. One was regarding, is it a woolen cap that a woman wears on her head, which that was the interpretation of Rebbe Vo. He said, we're talking about a kibbutz shel tzemer, a woolen hat that a woman wears, a woolen cap that she wears underneath her head, that it's forbidden, because yes, even though she's not going to uncover it here, she might come to slip it out from underneath, and she might come to carry it. And for sure, Kavla Da'avd, as we'll see in this stuff, that we're concerned that he's going to take it off, and he's going to carry it because he doesn't want to show that he's a slave. Now we're up to Shmuel Amar. He says that the Kabul of the Mishnah, that the woman, which is a place to discuss why he said and why we're picking specifically a woman, to discuss that, but well, let's say a maidservant, who she cannot go out with a kavla, specifically that of a kavla de'avd not. We're talking about the kavla of a slave, where, although it's the same word, they mean two different things, but he disagrees with Rebbe Vo. He actually holds this of the kibbutz shel tzemer is actually permitted. A woman's allowed to because she won't take it off in fear of exposing her hair. She's not going to uncover it. What's the kavod that a Tana of Mishnah holds is asur? It's talking about that of a slave, which is an emblem that a slave wears. Says the Gemara, how can the Shmuel really say the Shmuel? And Shmuel giving this interpretation. Does it really say this that what? A slave cannot go out with a kavla to avda on Shabbos? But Shmuel said, that a slave could go out with they seal the emblem on his neck, which that is the kavla da'avda, which they would make out of clay, that the slave could go out with. And this is the collar. This is the that the slave would go out with from some Talmudic times, that we have that this is the slave that would wear this seal around them to show that they're a slave. And Shmuel says that the slave could go out with this chaysim shabbat sabar, could go out with this, they would actually wear it around their neck, that they could go out with. So the question is that Shmuel says could go out with avalei b'chaysim shabbat ksusa. There's two types of emblems that we spoke about. Shmuel says that the one around the neck he could go out with, but the one on his garment he could not go out with. So actually Taisus asks, then why didn't the Gemara explain that it's not a contradiction? The case of the Mishnah is talking about the one on the garment. Shmuel says you could go out with, but in the halacha of the Mishnah it says you cannot go out with, is the one in the garment. So Taisus no, because as we're going to shortly see, the Gemara concludes that we're talking about an emblem that the slave makes by himself, and therefore that would seem to include all types of signets, of symbols, and therefore it wouldn't be just specifically on the garment. It sounds like he could go out with even the one around his neck, and that's the question. The Mishnah, you're saying you cannot go out with. We see Shmuel holds that you could go out with the the one around the neck. It says, well, it's not a difficulty. Why not? This last halacha that Shmuel says the slave could go out with the one around the neck is the Ovid Le Rabbe. And this is just to follow the chart might be difficult, but we're going to point them out which is which. Is when his master made it for him, he's permitted to go out with this on Shabbos. And we mentioned this is specifically, we mentioned before from Rashi, talking about the one made out of clay. As we'll see, it's going to be different regarding that of metal. But just to what we say hot cup for now, if the master makes it for him, he's afraid to take it off. He's not going to take it off to carry in his hand. What are you taking this off? His master made it for him. Obviously, his master wants him to wear this. So then, actually, you're allowed to go out with the Rosh Hashanah because he's not going to take it off. Or she, like in the halacha of the Mishnah, come on a woman. But this that was saying that's to the contrary. That was Shmuel's halacha that he says that if the master made it for him, he's allowed to go out with it. The halacha, the Mishnah, is the Ovid Iul Nafshei. If he made it for himself, then you're not allowed to go out with it because we're afraid. If he made it for himself, the master didn't make it for him. So we're afraid that he might come to take it off to show like he's a free person. And the master's not going to say where it is, because the master didn't make it for him. So therefore that resolves the contradiction. Yes, and the one that Shmuel says, in the halacha of the Mishnah, you cannot go out with the kabdabda. Yes, Shmuel says you could go out with kabdabda, which both are talking around the neck. How to resolve the contradiction? If he made it for himself, then he cannot go out with it, because we're concerned he might come to take it on the Rosh Hashanah. People are looking, he doesn't want them to see, he's going to pull it off and carry it down the Rosh Hashanah. The master made it for him, he's not going to take it off, and therefore then he actually could go out with it into Rosh Hashanah. But the Gemara continues asking, a lot of the daf is like that, where we bring in something and we ask on that. Says the Gemara, okay, so wait a second. How are you explaining the halacha Shmuel that said that you're allowed to go out with it, his own independent statement, not the one qualified in the Mishnah, that you're allowed to go out with the seal made out of clay? There's the other rabbi. You said if his master made it for him, he said he's afraid to take it off. He's not going to come to carry Rosh Hashanah. But then there was two parts of that halacha. We quoted. We said, Shmuel said the slave could go out with the seal on his neck, but we said but the seal on his garment, this one, we said that he's not allowed to go out. Says, my Lord, what do you mean? Why not? That should also be permitted. He's not going to take it off because his master made it for him. You tell me he could go out with it because his master made it, then why over here, when it's on his garment, can he not go out with it? Says, that's a separate problem. His Dila Mifsik, what might happen is that the seal might break and it's going to get detached. Now, the problem is, Umirtas, he's going to be afraid of his master, that he shouldn't say, wait a second, where's that seal I made for you on your garment? He shouldn't say that he took it off because he wanted to make believe like he's a free person, and the master doesn't want him to get those ideas in his head that he's a free person. So because he's afraid and he sees the seal came detached, umekapele, he's going to fold over his talis, his garment. He's going to take off his shirt. He's going to take off whatever the garment is that the seal is on his, let's say that jacket. Umachis le'akasve, and he's going to put it onto his shoulders so that you can't see, it's not visible, the place of the seal. And therefore the master's not going to be able to discern that it fell off. In other words, like Taisi explains, he'd rather have it folded up that instead of his master seeing that it's totally off, because then he's going to think he deliberately pulled it off to rebel. If he's not wearing the jacket, it's folded up. So the master might think he got hot, whatever it is, and he's folded up, but you don't see the seal being off. So if he's gonna wear it, the master would say, wait a second, didn't I make one on your by your breast pocket? What's it doing over there? So by here it's not that case. Here it's not on a garment. Here it's on the garment. What he's going to do is he's going to pull off the garment and he'll put it on his shoulder. What's the problem with that? Says the Gemara, that's forbidden to be walking Rishus around like that. And if we don't let you go out with this on Shabbos, because Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Rabbi Yitzchak he says, Hayitze metalis mikupalis. Someone goes out with a folded garment, and it's on his shoulders on Shabbos, which is a place we discussed regarding a person not putting his hands in his sleeve, or wearing a talis. You're allowed to wear a talis if it's hanging down, but let's say you fold it up over the shoulders, then you're chayav chatas. Then you're liable for a carbon chatas, because that talis is now like a load. It's not an ornament. Only if you're wearing it the way clothing is normally worn. Since you're not wearing it, you're folding it up on the shoulder. That is going to be considered as a chiyuv of chatas, and that's why we don't let you make it even if it's made by the master. Here we said if it's made by the master, you're allowed to go if he's not going to take it off. Why over here, if it's made by the master in the garment, he cannot take it off? Because if it falls off, he's afraid he's going to come to fold it up, and therefore he's going to be carrying the Rishus Rab that way. and that's why he can't go out with the seal in his garment. Now the Gemara actually says, related to this halacha, Shmuel said to Rav Bar Shila, he said, all the rabbis that are under the jurisdiction of the Rish Galusa, who was the one in charge of all the Jewish people in the diaspora, they cannot go out with their cloaks that have the emblem, meaning the Rish Galusa used to make emblems in the cloaks of the rabbis, like almost like slaves, to show you're subservient to the Rish Galusa. Now they're not allowed to go out, he said to them, with these cloaks, because if the emblem would break, the rabbis would be afraid, and they might come to fold it and put on their shoulders, and they're going to come to carry it just around Shabbos. He said, he said, however, except you, Rav Bar Shila. The house of Rish Galusa, they're not particular with you if you're going to go without the emblem, and therefore you're not going to be so afraid, and then you're not going to come to carry it, and then you can walk out with the emblem. But they cannot walk out with the emblem, again, for the same reason, because you're not allowed to go ahead and fold up something on your garment, on your shoulder, and he might come to do that. With this one, there's nothing to fold up. If it breaks, as we'll see, if it's made out of clay, it's not chashav at all. He's just going to leave it on the floor. He's not going to come to carry it. You're not bringing it back to the master. It's not going to show anything you're holding in your hand. Here, by the cloak, you can fold it up, and as if you can't even tell that it's anything happened because it's covered over, and therefore he might come to do that, and that's the concern by, even if the master made it, when it's in the ksusa. Now, before we learned, going back to one of the statements we mentioned before, Amar Shmuel. So Shmuel had said, Yoitzer Eved b'chaisim. The slave could go out with an emblem shebet tzavori, that's on his neck, and as we mentioned, that it's made out of clay, where if it falls, he's not going to be like the clothing, he's not going to be particular to bring it. Now, Rashi says, isn't he going to be afraid also? But that's what says Rashi, even if he's afraid that the master's going to say, where's the one around your neck? But who cares? He's not going to bring it in his hand. That's not going to show servitude. And it's only if it's on his neck or on his garment. So therefore, like we said, here, Shmuel said you're allowed to go out with it because you're not going to take it off. And if it breaks, okay, it breaks. Nothing more he can do. He's not going to carry it anyway. It's not going to show he's a slave by holding it. But like we mentioned, but not if it's the emblem in the garment, because that, again, like we said, he's afraid he might come to carry it. Says the Gemara, and this is what it's leading into, a steer of brises. Similar in the brises like this teaching of Shmuel. The slave could go out with the emblem around his neck, but not the emblem that's on his garment. That Bryce is just like Shmuel, but Vermino seems to be a contradiction of Bryces. Because the Bryce says, clearly, we're going to mention the lengthy Bryce, but the contradiction is right here in the opening line. But we're still going to have to help, like we say, in the Bryce itself. But the question is right here. No, the slave is not allowed to go out with the emblem around his neck. So that's already the contradiction. Shmuel and the first Bryce says he's allowed to go out with the emblem around his neck. And this Bryce is saying he's not allowed to go around with the emblem around his neck. Now we're going to continue with the Bryce. And which is like the way Shmuel had said, and the Bryce, and also he cannot go out with the emblem on his garment. Now, both them, the emblems of the garment and of the neck, they're not makabel tumah because they're not made for beautification. They're not going to be tumah because they're a taksha. Jewelry is makabel tumah. That's not a jewelry. Now, although actually we're going to explain, unlike the case of what Shmuel was talking about when it's made out of clay, and that's going to resolve the contradiction, that these are actually made out of metal, still, says Rashi, since it's not made for beauty, it's just actually made as a disgrace, it's a sign of servitude, so it's not beauty, and it's also not considered a kli as a kli tashmish because it's not serving any purpose, therefore, this is not going to be considered as a kli, and therefore it's not going to be the kabel tov. Now, moreover, continues the brisa. This enters a whole new territory, but again, we're bringing the brisa because we're asking for the first halacha. So too, we're talking about the slave. He's not go out with a bell on his neck, which they would hang as a sign of decorating the slave. But he could go out with the bell on his garment. What's the reason? Why could he go out with a bell? Why can he not go out with their bell around his neck? But he could go out with the bell on his garment. But be that as it may, unlike the emblem, which we said neither one of those, the neck or the garment, here the bells by the servant, both of them are going to be mikabel tumah because it's an ornament, it's a takshin, and therefore a takshin is mikabel tumah. Now continues the brisa, but like takes in behemoth. Now we'll go to an animal once we're discussing emblems and bells about going out on Shabbos and being mikabel tumah. But like takes in behemoth, now an animal's not allowed to go out. Now with an emblem on its neck. Now with an emblem on its garment. Rashi says, what do you mean, an animal wears a garment? Yeah, they make for horses some type of a cloak that it shouldn't get dirty. The animals wear some type of a garment. So it cannot go out, like we said in the animal of the previous paragraph. An animal, behema, cannot do haitzah. The animal's not allowed to go out with the emblem on its neck or on its garment. And also, neither could go out with a bell on its garment. And neither could go out with a bell on its neck. The neck one, like Rashi takes both stays, is because, like we learned in the previous paragraph, Nandal Mabeis, because the animal with a bell around the neck looks like it's being sold in the marketplace, which gives the appearance of wrongdoing because you're not allowed to sell on Shabbos. So that's why it cannot go out with the bell on its neck. And says the Brisa, Zevazet ein makabel tama. And here, unlike the case of the slave, that actually both of them are makabel tama, here by the animal, the halacha is that it's not going to be makabel tama because there's no halacha of a tachshit. We said the reason why it's makabel tama by the slave is because it's an ornament. There is no halachic, as we mentioned in previous stuff, an element of tachshit, of an ornament for an animal does not give the status of a kli, and therefore it's not going to be makabel tama. Fine, that is the lengthy Brisa, and we're going to get back to some of this. But first of all, we have a contradiction. The contradiction is that we had the previous Brisa that said, like Shmuel, that around the neck is permitted, the one on the garment is forbidden. And here we see in the Brisa that it says that no, the slave cannot go out, even the one around the neck. So the Gemara wants to say, okay, lema shall we say, it's not a contradiction. The previous Brisa that said, as we had mentioned in discussion when we talked about Shmuel, that he's allowed to go out the one around his neck, was the one that the master made for him. The master made for him, he's afraid to take it off. And here, where the Brisa is saying that he's not allowed to go out with it, is when he made it for himself. So he might come to take it off. That's an easy resolution. Does the Gemara no? Actually, both Brisa talking about that his master made it for him. Now Rashi's bothered. What's wrong with that answer? What we said that in the interpretation on the top of the Yomid by Kabul. We said we had a contradiction in two teachings of Shmuel. On the one hand, he says the halacha is kavla da avda. This kavla, this emblem in the Mishnah is forbidden to go out with. But Shmuel himself said the Eved could go out with. So we explained when the Mishnah said Kabul is aser, we explained is when he makes it for himself. And Shmuel's the one where the master made it. So why can't we give the same thing to resolve these two brises? So that says Rashi says no. There, we can explain like that because we were talking about their general seals, which were made out of clay. Where if it breaks, so he's not going to pick it up to bring the broken pieces to his master because that doesn't show anything. The master doesn't care about broken pieces of clay. So that's why you couldn't explain the Mishnah as talking about when it's that his master made it for him. Because if his master made it for him, then you're right. Then it wouldn't be forbidden because as long as it doesn't break, he's not going to take it from his neck because he's afraid of the master. And if it does break, so the master's not particular about it because of any loss, because no loss is a broken piece of clay. So then he's not going to come to break it. And in contrast, when he himself makes it, then he might come to take it off. That was a good resolution. But over here by the Brisa that says forbidden, you cannot say, that's because it's talking about a seal made out of clay, because as the Gemara is going to ultimately explain from the Sefer that actually the Brisa is talking about when it's made out of metal. So therefore, even if his master made it for him, it would still be forbidden, because if it breaks, the master would be bothered, because there's a loss of the metal. And therefore the slave would be afraid, and they could carry it, and therefore that wouldn't be a good resolution. So therefore the Gemara rejects it, says, no. It's not the one that his master made for him, one that he made for himself. No, both are talking about, both Brises are that his master made for him. So we're back to the question. Both the master made it for him. Then why is the first Brisa saying that he's allowed to go out with it, and the second Brisa saying he's not allowed to go out with it? And that says the Gemara, but Khan, over here the second Brisa says that he's not allowed to go out with it. This chaysim sabar, this emblem on his neck, is Toma Bishel Nateches. It's Toma where it's made out of metal. There, it's something expensive. If it breaks, as we're going to shortly explain, the master's bothered, he's going to come to carry it. But Vakan, here, when we said you're allowed to go out with it, is Bishel Tit. Is because when they're made out of clay. Made out of clay, when it breaks, look, he's not going to take it off. So for that it should be permitted. If it's going to break, he's not going to carry it, it's a piece of clay. Oh, but the second Brisa says, why are you not allowed to go out with it? It could be made out of metal. If it's made out of metal, if it breaks, he is going to come to carry it. Because the master's going to be bothered. And that's why the Brisa says, not go out with that emblem around the neck. Who could have not that he says that it depends. Davar Hamak would love Rabbi, something that his master would be bothered if it gets lost. And Yoitzin boy, then he cannot go out with it. That's the Brisa says it's forbidden. Because if it breaks, he's going to come to carry it because it's made out of metal. Davar She'enak would love something that the master doesn't care about, a piece of clay. Yoitzin boy, then you could go out with it. That's what the first Brisa, and that was the halacha of Shmuel. And now the Gemara proves it. Hachinam Mistabra says the Gemara, it's logical to say that the second Brisa was saying that it's asur is because it's talking about made out of metal. And again, that's why he said it's asur, because it's expensive and the slave is going to come to carry it when it breaks. How do we know this? from the fact that Mediktani, because the Brisa had to tell us that Zeh, both the emblem on the neck and on the garment, ein mekabel tum. We said that the slave cannot go out with either one of them, and that both of them are not mekabel tum. Now, the reason we said is because it's not made for beautification, it's not a tafshin, so it has no halachic status as a kli. But says the Gemara like this: if you're going to say, like we're explaining now, that this second Brisa shall not teches, again, al cup. That's why we said the slave cannot go out with the emblem around his neck. It's expensive. The break is going to come to carry it. But there's two halachas. One regarding Hitzah and Shabbos, and one regarding Tum. So if you're going to tell me they made out of metal, as we're coming to explain, so it would make sense. Hanihu delay mekabel tuma. That's what the Brisa is coming to tell us. Here, in this case of the emblem around the neck and on the garment, I have to tell you it's not mekabel tuma because quote unquote it's not a kli, it's not lanoi, it's not a taksha, it's nothing. But the inference would be hakelim the true, but metallic vessels, meaning other vessels, are going to be mekabel tuma. They are going to be mekabel tuma because they're metal vessels. That would make sense, and I have to tell you, but here it's not going to be because it's not a kli. Eli Aaron Bishal Titz now, but if it's like we thought up until now, like in the first brisa, that it's made out of clay, I don't understand. Hanihu delay mekabel tuma. I have to tell you that these are not mekabel tuma, but hakelim the two. But what? But they're vessels, meaning a vessel that's made out of this type of clay. When I say this type of clay is important, means to say that it's not heated up in a kiln, in a furnace that's made by a potter, because that's actually called kli cheres. Those are called earthenware vessels. We're not talking about that. We're talking about clay adama. These weren't made into earthenware. These are earthware, not earthenware. They weren't made into fiery furnaces. There, do you think that mekabel tuma, that it's going to be mekabel tuma, that I have to tell you, but that in this case, when it's an emblem, it's not mekabel tuma? That's not the case at all. None of them are mekabel tuma. Because Matanya in the Brisa that says, clay avanim, the as we said in the introduction, that the stoneware that's made out of stone, or clay glolam, or that's made out of the dung from cattle, which they make a vessel out of it, or clay adama, or clayware, ein mekabel tuma, it's not mekabel tuma, limited return, not biblically, limited return, not rabbinically. So what is that? Why do I have to tell you that the emblem is going to be not mekabel tuma because it's not a kli? I don't understand. Even if it was a kli, if it's made out of clay, it's not mekabel tuma anyway. Rather, it's obvious that the second Brisa is talking about Shematecha, it's made out of metal. Shmamino, so that's why the Brisa says it's forbidden for the slave to go out with the emblem around his neck, because it's made out of metal. The first Brisa says you could go, it's made out of earthenware, and the master's not particular about it, and therefore, if it breaks, he's not going to come to carry it, and he's not going to take it off because the master made it for him. That's the resolution of the two Brisa. Now, Amamah, we continue with the Brisa. The time of the second Brisa said that the slave cannot go out. Cannot go out with the bell around his neck. But he could go out with the bell on his garment. Says the Gemara, so wait a second, let's first understand this. The bell around his neck, why can he not go out with it? Because it might break. But he's going to come to carry it, it's a precious item. So then the bell on his garment also should be the same thing. That's Leichish Dilamistic, we should be concerned that it breaks off his garment. Vaslatur is going to come to carry. Why is it any different? We're talking about not the word mumcha like as in a professional, but what happens is that it was woven onto the garment and now it's not going to get detached anymore. And Ukid Rav Huna made the Bishur. As we quoted in the previous daf, Rav Huna made the Bishur, he says, Kol shu arg, whatever is woven. Loi gazu, they did not make the rabbinic decree that you now go out with it. Now, Rashi and Tais both point out, although Rav Huna was talking about the laws of chatzitza, and it's not going to be chatzitza when it's woven because of large loops, but from the fact that he said kol shu arik, his words were whatever is woven, that sounds like for whatever halachic rabbinic problem, whether chatzitza or whether even if it's something is going to come detaching and come to carry it, that we're also telling you that we're not concerned that it's going to come detached, even in our context, and ever since it's woven on, we don't have that concern. So that's the difference between the bell on the garment versus the bell around his neck. The bell around the neck might go around his neck, you might come to carry, but on the garment it's woven on, they were not concerned about any detachment, and therefore that was permitted to go out with in Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos. Now, Amamah, the Brisa said over here that we spoke about slaves, and we were discussing slaves because we were introducing the halach of Kabbalah, the Avda, that Shmuel was saying, like, but then once we introduced the Brisa, like we said, we spoke about animals in those two contexts too. So he said, like, say to the animals not allowed to go out, not the emblem on its neck, not the emblem on its garment, not the bell on its neck, not the bell on its garment. Fine, can't go out with any one of those. Additionally, we said, in regard to the laws of Tumah, that we said by the slave, so to Zev is a Makabel Tumah. Both of them, the bells, are not going to be Makabel Tumah. Says the Gemara, that really so that the bells and the emblems of the slave and the animals were saying regarding the slave that it's not going to be Makabel the bells of the animals is not going to be Makabel Tumah. But for me, that seems to be contradicted from the following price. The price says a zug, a bell, shel behema, if it's from an animal, and this is where the contradiction comes from, is tameh. So let's clear up a contradiction. The first price is saying that a bell on the animal is not makabel tumah, and yet this price is saying clearly that a bell on the animal is makabel tumah. Now the price continues as you continue to base. The shaldeles, a bell on a door is tahir. Why? Why is it tar? Because a door is attached to the house, and the house is attached to the ground, and anything attached to the ground is not makabel tumah. Now, so therefore it's not considered as a vessel to be makabel tumah. Now the bell that's made for the door is bottled to the door, as the Gemara said in the previous daf, that whatever is attached to something is like it, and therefore the bell on the door is going to be tar. Now, however, says the Brisa, interestingly, that if you have a bell shaldelis of a door, and then you transfer, you make it now, and you take the bell from the door and use it for your animal, then it's going to be makabel tumah from here on. Where although, as we're going to explain this shortly, you didn't do an action to it, you just thought about it, and you just hung it on the animal. It's not a real action, you didn't do anything to change in the bell itself. But as we're going to see, that Kalim are Yerdun de Tumas, and you could activate a halach of Tumah for it, just with a thought process. And obviously this is your thought by your action. You didn't do an action in the sense of changing the bell itself, but that's enough to go ahead and make it susceptible to Tumah. But let's say the other way around. Let's say Shal Behema, let's say you had a bell of an animal, and you transfer it, and you've Asladelis, and you're now using it for your door, that it should be a noisemaker on the door. Even though you attached it to the door, and you nailed it in, Tameh, it's still going to be Makabel Tumah from here and on, because when you attach it, that's not considered an action. An action has to change what it was up until now to show that you're changing it in its essence to be something that's not Makabel Tumah. So therefore it's still going to be Makabel Tumah. Why? And this is what we said in the introduction, because it could become susceptible to Tumah just with a thought. So changing it from the door to the animal, I'm just thinking I want to use of an animal, then it's going to be Makabel Tumah, like we said, which is the contradiction that we're going on. The bell of an animal is Makabel Tumah. But it cannot be removed from its Tumah, which it had already. So although that it didn't become Tumah when you changed your mind, it's the way Rashi says it's not going to be removed from even being susceptible to Tumah, unless you do an action that changes something, the essence of the bell itself. Fine, that's halacha regarding the bells of a door versus the bell of an animal. One thing is, the Brisa opened up by saying that a bell of an animal is makabel tumah. That contradicts the first Brisa says a bell of an animal is not makabel tumah. So the Malikash not difficulty. Why not? This Brisa, that the second Brisa says that the bell of an animal is makabel tumah, is the Islay inbil. There's a clapper that's made inside the bell that makes noise. The first Brisa that said that the bell of the animal is going to be tar is the Leslie inbil. It doesn't have a clapper inside the bell. So the Gemara says, well, what type of answer is that? What is it that you want? If a bell is a vessel, meaning it's an ornament for the animal, so have it be the Leslie inbil, even though it doesn't have a clapper. Okay, it's still an ornament for the animal. And if it's not a vessel, it's not an ornament to the animal, so inbil mashma limana, you can tell me a clapper is going to make it into a vessel? But what? Because of a clapper, that's a takshit? Why would that make it into an ornament on the animal? Because we're assuming like by the slave, it's an ornament. So if it's considered an ornament, it should become a tumah without the clapper. If it's not, then even with a clapper. Says yes, the clapper will make it into a vessel. Now, not like you assumed like the case of the Evid. Not because it's an ornament, rather because it's going to make it into a cleat. What does that mean? How can the clapper make it into a cleat? So the Gemara, can Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg says, how do we know a metallic vessel that makes noise? Shu tell me that's going to be makabel tumah. Now Teish says very interestingly, he says, why if it makes noise makabel tumah? Now we'll bring a pasuk. Now Teish explains, he says, because that's considered as a utilitarian vessel for a person. It's called klei tashmish to adam. Why? Because the person wants it to make noise. Because when the bell bangs, he knows where his animal is. That was the old Find My iPhone where it could be. He knows how to find his animal because it makes noise. That is like we had in the previous daf, the maktal shal behema shal atefes. When you have the metal broad stick that they would use to push the animals. The reason why it's makabel tumah is because the person uses it and then it's considered tashmish to adam. And this proves this from later on that the fact that it makes noise is not enough. It has to make noise that it's utilitarian for a person, therefore it's makabel tumah. But what's the source of this? Says the Gemara, like it says in the pasuk in Bamidbar, when it talks about when they plundered Midian, where it talks about the metallic vessels, it says anything that comes into fire, you have to purge it with fire. That's one of the halachas of Haggalah, of kashering. If it was used with fire, you have to kasher it with fire. But one thing is when you see in the pasuk when it says kol davar, the word davar can mean thing or it could also mean speech, dibur. What tells you is that fila dibur, even if the vessel is used just for sound, Yava Be'ish has to go through the fire, which Taisa points out. Wait a second, that pasuk not talking about tumah. Talking about regarding Haggalah. Well, how's that proving that we're saying that something a metal clean that makes noise is makabel tumah? And that says Taisa, yeah, but it's logical that if it makes noise, it shouldn't be anything regarding halachas of Haggalah. That's if you have to purge it from blias or not. Rather, since it has nothing to do with Haggalah, what's called Tenegel in Tumah, so we relate it to laws of Tumah to say that yes, what we're seeing from the pasuk is that if it makes noise, it's going to be a kli, and that it's going to be makabel tumah. So therefore, that's the resolution of the brises. The one that says it's makabel tumah has a bell, a clapper in the bell, and one says not makabel tumah, it doesn't have the clapper. The Evid we said it relates to tashmish, but the animal we said it's a different halacha. It's regarding if it makes noise, then it's going to be a kli because of a pasuk, and if it doesn't, so it doesn't make noise, and it's not a tashmish, it's not going to be makabel tumah. But the Gemara continues asking this, says, wait a second, the brisa, the first brisa, that you said that the bell of an animal is going to be tar. You explained. You said why? It's because, like we said, but the leslie inbul, where it doesn't have a clapper, so it doesn't have a clapper, it's not making noise, and also it's not attached to the behemoth, and therefore it's not going to be makabel tumah. But says the Gemara, look at the middle case of that brisa. Meaning to say, in that brisa, which was on Omen Aleph, we spoke about the emblems and the bells of people, slaves, and of animals. So they all have to be the unilateral case of when we're talking about a bell, because it doesn't differentiate, you're talking about that there's no clapper. So then Amos says, look at the middle case when it talks about the bell of a person. We said that the slave cannot go out, the cannot go out with the bell on his neck. Like we said, because the one on the neck might fall down, he might come to carry it, and it's an expensive item. But we say he could go out with the bell on his garment because that's sewn on, it's woven in, and never not going to fall down. Fine. But then the Brisa said, both bells of the slave are makabel tumah. So I understand. Either Leslie Imbul, if you're telling me by the case, because you have to explain with the animal, that there's no clapper, so there's no clapper. So mi makabel tumah. So is the bell even of a person from the slave being makabel tumah? Why by a person do we say it's makabel tumah? But Verminu, are you telling me that by a person that even if it didn't have by the Evid, even if it didn't have a clapper, it would be makabel tumah? But Verminu is contradicting from a different Brisa. The Brisa says, if someone makes bells, what is he making bells for? So many different things have bells. L'machteshes for a mortar. Interestingly, we say this by Peter Maktaris, that when you grind the spices for incense, for the smell, the Gemara increased Avam Beis brings the famous brisa that we say that the koil is yofel abasamim. The sound is good for the incense when it's being pounded. So they would make bells by the mortar. Or let's say larisa, for the cradle where the baby sleeps in, where they hang a bell to make noise when the child hears it, the child could fall asleep. Or they make bells for the coverings of the Sifrei Torah when they carry it to the shul. So interestingly, we know that some of them, the crowns or whatever the cloaks have the bells. But Rashi says because the children would learn in the shul, and when they would be taking the Sefer Torah to shul, the bells would make noise, and the children would hear, and they would come running. They know that they're going to learn Torah in the shul. Or they would make bells that the way Rashi says that the cloaks of the children, they would hang on their neck these types of bells, that the children would have these bells. Be that as it may, so if someone's making these bells for all these different items, so it says the Brisa like this: Yesh lehem in bil tamei. If it has a clapper, then they're makabel tumah these bells. Ein lehem in bil, if it doesn't have a clapper, tahayrin that's going to be tarred. This is where the contradiction is from. We see even though we're talking about people, limit tinoikis that would hang the bells from the child, we said if it doesn't have a clapper, it's not going to be makabel tumah. That contradicts the previous price, which said that by the slave, which you're telling me is tumah, there's no clapper, it is makabel tumah. But we just finished off the brisa. The brisa says, now, nitlu in belehem. Let's say it already became tummy, this bell, let's say that's hanging around the child's neck. But then the clapper was taken away, adayim tumas naleim, it still remains with its tumah. Now, why is that? Didn't you say when there's no clapper, it's not makabel tumah? So Rashi and Tais discuss at length that there's a difference between becoming tummy and removing it from its status of tummy. Meaning, this was a kli because it had a clapper. Like we said, that's the requirement. Now, when it loses its clapper, it's not going to be what's called a broken vessel, which nullifies it from its status as a kli to say it's tar from its tumah. It's still a kli, so it's going to retain its tumah. But let's say if it never had a clapper, then it's not makabel tumah. So that's the contradiction. Do we say by an evid, by a person without a clapper? The first brisa seems to be indicating that it is going to be makabel tumah, but then the brisa we just brought right now by the child seems to indicate without a clapper it's not makabel tumah. So even though it's not a contradiction. Hanami, when did this last brisa say that without the clapper it's not makabel tumah? It's betinik. That was the case. It was talking about by a child. Why do they make those bells? They make it so they know where the child is when they're running around, and therefore it's not considered a kli without the noisemaker, without the clapper. So therefore it's not makabel tumah. Avol gadol, but by the previous brisa discussing an adult slave, tachshedule, the bell is considered an ornament for him. Avol gadol, let's say of course it's going to be considered an ornament even without having a clapper inside, and therefore it is going to be tamei, and therefore it's not a difficulty. Yes, we're talking about the leslie imbol in that brisa. The animal's not going to become tumei because it's not attached to behema, and it's also not making noise because there's no clapper. Whereas by the end, it is going to become tumei because it's attached for this slave. Now, Amamar, we're going to go back to the brisa we just quoted again, which was brought in for a contradiction, but once we mention it, we're going to discuss that. So we said the last statement in that brisa was that although we said it's not a kli without the bell, without the clapper, but if it has one, then even if nitlim b'lein, if it became tummy, even if the clapper was taken away, adayin tumas nalein, it still retains its status of tummy. Now that says the Gemara. Well, I don't understand. L'may chasu. For what utility does this have bell with? It doesn't function anymore as a noisemaker. Why did you tell me that if you take away the clapper, it's still going to have the tummy? Isn't it a klisha nishbar? So Abaye says no, it's not. Hoyel shahed yochel avzir. Since a regular person with two left hands, you have these regular people, non-professionals, a regular person could put it back in. So since you don't need a professional, so it's not considered as if you did a bona fide action, like we said. It only can be eliminated to masna de maisa, ilmashina maisa. That's not considered shina maisa. You could put it right back in. You didn't really change anything, and it's still going to have the tumah that it had before the clap was taken out. However, that interpretation of Abaya must have Rava. Rava asked from either the way Rashi is saying it as a brisa, Taisus asks and says a mishnah satis para, which is important in the understanding. We'll be going with Rashi. That he asked him the following brisa. The brisa says hazug ve'inbol, the bell and the clapper are chibur. They're considered attached when they're connected, meaning to say they're like one vessel. Which is if let's say this becomes the bell becomes tummy, so the clapper is going to become tummy. If let's say when they're spraying it from the Esha Paraduma on the clapper, it's going to work for the bell. They're considered as one. But one thing is the Rav is asking from the fact that we're calling it as chibur. From that we can infer that if they'd be separated, meaning when they're not attached, then it would be like a vessel that part of it was taken away. So although a regular person could put it right back in the clapper into the bell, but as long as it wasn't put back in, we see that it's not considered complete, it's not considered kli, and therefore that contradicts Abaye. We see that if it's detached, it's not going to be makabel tumah. But according to Abaye, says if you could put something back, it's still considered as a kli to makabel tumah. And then Rava says, in Bechita, maybe you're going to say that no, to the contrary, actually it could maybe be just like Abaye. This that it says in the brisa that the bell and the clapper are considered attached, hachikama, this is what it's saying. That even if they're detached, that avagav deloy mechaber, even though they're not attached, we're going to call it attached. Meaning, command the mechaber as if it is attached. And to the contrary, maybe the bride is going to tell us that even if it becomes attached, it's still going to be makabel tumah, meaning it was not removed from its tumah. Why? Because we view it as attached because you could easily put it back in like a regular common person. And that says Rabbi, no, he proves Bavatanya. And this is why it's Rashi L'Shatasa. He says, no, the brisa right near that brisa, and therefore it reflects on that brisa of the bell and the clapper, the brisa right next to it says a halacha that's going to prove that it's only when it's actually attached. And therefore when we're talking about attached by the bell and the clapper, it's only when it's actually attached. Which, when it's detached, it's not considered connected, which is not like Abaya, who says that you could easily put it back, it is considered attached. We see that it's not. Because what's the neighboring brisa? The brisa says, Mispayra shel paraka. A scissors made out of two different blades that could be undone, or let's say v'izema, which is a plane, some type of an instrument, shel rihitni, of professional carpenters, that they put the plane between two pieces of wood that's made for that, and that's how they used to smooth out certain surfaces. Now, after the work is done with it, they generally take out the piece and they conceal it. So says the Bryce like this. These, either the pair of scissors, meaning the scissors which has two blades, or the izama, which also the plane has two different elements. So chibur l'tama, it's considered attached to laws of tama, meaning if one part becomes tummy, the other part becomes tummy. But they're not considered attached for when you're being sprayed to purify with the paraduma ashes. Both have to be separately sprayed on. We said on this, and we had a similar discussion in the previous stuff. Manashach, what's your opinion? What do you want? If you view them as connected as one, then when you spray, you don't have to get in every particle of the vessel. Even for azah, if you get one part, it should be good for all. And if you don't consider connected, I feel if one becomes tummy, the other one should not become tummy. Why? What's this double standard? Avram Rabbi says you're right. Dvad Torah, according to biblical law, it depends. B'shas malacha, when work is being done, so then chibur is considered attached, bein l'tama, whether l'tama, bein l'azah. When the work is being done, when it's connected, which generally it's only connected when doing work with it, then you're right. Biblically, it's considered as one for being tummy or for the ashes being sprayed. Shaloi b'shas malacha, when work is not being done with it, and since you don't need it to be attached, even if it is attached, it's really like two different vessels because you're not doing work with it. And generally, when work's not being done with it, you separate them. So then you're right. In the chibur that's not attached, and not being sprayed on, even if they are attached. Because obviously we're talking about when work is not being done with it, which is similar to the case of when work is being done with it. And when the work is being done with it, obviously it is attached. So obviously when work is not being done with it, I mean then it's detached. But obviously we see that it's talking about that it is attached. Now, but for Gazur, they made a decree stringently either way. Al Tuma, regarding Tuma, we consider it that it should be attached. Shaloi b'shas malacha, even when you're not doing work with it. We said generally not doing work with it, it's not really considered attached. No, for Tuma, we do consider it. Why? As a decree. Mishum Tuma shi b'shas malacha. Because you're going to confuse. You can say, oh, I saw it was attached, and the rabbi said only this blade is tummy, not this one, because you weren't doing work with it. So therefore, we say it's tummy because of the case when you were doing work with it, and so to the other way around. Valazah, we made a decree regarding when it's being sprayed that it should not be considered attached. Shehi b'shas malachi, even when work is being done with it, which that is biblically considered attached. Mishum azah shelo b'shas malachi, because the concern of the case when you're not doing work with it, which then it's not really considered attached. That's why we said in the Brisa that for Tum it's always considered attached, but for Hazah it's never considered attached. But that's because of rabbinic concern. But one thing Rabbi asks is that we see that the attachment of the vessel in this Brisa of the scissors and the plane is only when they're actually attached, as we see clearly. So they have a neighboring Brisa of the bell and the clapper is also only going to be considered as Mekabel Tumah when they're actually attached, not like we wanted to give this interpretation that even when they're not attached, like they're attached. No, it's only when they're actually attached. So then the question comes back. So obviously you cannot say like Abai, because you see, even though it could easily be put back by Hedin, we don't consider attached. So back to the question. So why are we saying that it's going to be Mekabel Tumah in this case of the we said that if the bell was taken away, it still has its Tumah. Why? Why does it still have a Tumah? Why isn't it considered like a broken vessel that if it doesn't have a bell, as we said to the child, without a bell really it's not a kli. We say when you take it away, it's still Mekabel Tumah. So Abai says, no, it's not like broken, you can put it back. But Rabbi just rejected that, because we see that no, that the fact that you can put it back does not retain its Tumah. So why are we saying, in the case of if the imbal was taken away, that's still be Mekabel Tumah? Say Elmer Rabba, rather Rabba says, he says that actually no, don't say because the commoner can put it back. Because most definitely if it comes apart, it's not one vessel, as we learned in the Brisa. The Zug v'imbal is chibur, it's only when they're attached. If they're separated, it's a klisha nitul miktsas, it's a vessel that part of it was taken away, and it's not Mekabel Tumah. But what's not Mekabel Tumah? And this is Rabba's answer. The clapper is not Mekabel Tumah. Because you're right, the clapper is part of a broken vessel. But what did we say that? But didn't we say that if the clapper is taken away, it's still Mekabel Tumah? What's Mekabel Tumah? The zug, the bell part, that itself is Mekabel Tumah, because that you did not nullify it from its status as a vessel. Why not? What's the double standard here between the bell and the clapper? Oh, so it says Rabbi, it's continuing top of the Testament Aleph, since you could bang the zug agabe cheres on an earthenware vessel, and it's going to make noise like it always did. So it's not what's called nullified memalach terishayim. It still retains its original status because you can still use it to make noise. So Rashi compares it to like a vessel where it developed a hole less than the size of a pomegranate. Where although let's say you can't use it when you always used to use it, let's say for olives, because the hole is bigger than that. But the halach is that it's not purified from its tumah because it still has its semblance of its original capacity, where you could still use it to hold things, albeit bigger things. So here also, now you can still use it. It still has a semblance of original function by banging it on a vessel, even though you can't bang it inside, but it can still be used the way it used to be, and therefore, actually, that's why it's still makabel tuma. And then, remember, so to learn our abuse of Chanina, says, like since you can bang it on an earthenware vessel, therefore, it's still makabel tuma. Now, Rashi just sums up the sugya, and he says, now we understand all the cases of the bells. He says, by the animal, we said that without the clapper, it's going to be tar, as we learned in the first brisa, because it's not a vessel, and also it's not a tachshit for an animal, and it's not a vessel without the clapper. Now, if it has a clapper, it is going to be makabel tuma, as we explained in the second brisa, because yes, we said that the bell will make it into a mana because it makes noise, and as we learned, a metal vessel makes noise is makabel tuma. That's regarding an animal. Then regarding an adult person, which when we spoke about an eved, a slave. So we said even without the clapper, it's going to be makabel tuma because it's an ornament for him. You don't need a clapper; it doesn't have to make noise. It's just an ornamental thing, and that's what the first brisa said. That for the eved, it's going to be makabel tuma. Now, in contrast, the second brisa spoke about a child, which the utility of the child. Why do we want to have a bell on his neck so that we know where he is? It's a tracking device to make noise. Then we said for the child, it's not going to be makabel tuma without the bell. As we said, ein lam inbul tire. But that was only if it never had a bell in the first place, because it was never what's called nigma malach. It was never made into the vessel it's supposed to be, like kol mekelim. But that's what we ended off the brisa. We just explained that part of the brisa. But if, let's say, subsequently the clap was taken out, it had a clap, was made into clean, then the clap was taken away, then we said whether before the tuma or after the tuma, it's still going to have the halacha of tuma, because that wasn't considered broken in the shiur. You're right, the clapper is considered shiur kalim, but the bell still has, and therefore it's still going to be makabel tuma, because it can still be used to make the noise that it always makes. Some of the things we spoke about in today's daf, Shabbos Daf Ches, was we had a second interpretation of what is Kabul in the Mishnah. That we said that Lo Yisei Tzi Kabul, Shmuel said it's talking about that of the slave. Now, Rebbe Voa said in the previous time it's talking about a woolen cap. He says no, it's talking about that of the woolen cap the woman could walk out with. She's not going to uncover here. It's talking about that of the slave. Where a slave has an emblem. That's this Kabul, is this emblem that the slave wears. Now, the Gemara had many different details in a lot of these halachas. Now, this is specifically where he made it for himself. Ooh, the racer just went on. He made it for himself, and so he might come to take it off from Rishus Rabbim because he doesn't want people to see that he's a slave. Now, however, but if let's say his master made it for him, it's actually permitted for him to go out with the emblem around his neck because he's afraid to take it off. And he's not going to come to carry it either because it's made out of earthen, made out of clay, which has no value, and doesn't show anything that it's a slave holding in his hand. Now, even so, even though when his master makes him, it's permitted, because he's afraid to take it off, but when it's on his garment, we actually said it's going to be asur. Why? What's that double standard? Said because by the garment, we're afraid it might become detached, and he's going to become afraid to wear his garment without the emblem, so he's actually going to fold it over. He's going to put it on his shoulder. Putting it on his shoulder is considered hitzah on Shabbos, and therefore he can't go out with the emblem on his garment. Like we had by the Rabbanim of the Reish Galusa, that they couldn't go out with them because they might be afraid if it gets detached, they're going to come to carry it. That's why that, yes, first of all, when he makes it himself, then that's Shmuel, that's permitted. When his master makes for him, it's permitted because he's not going to take it off. But by the garment, even though his master made it, it's going to be forbidden because he might come to fold it and put it on the shoulder. Then we had a contradiction. One brisa was like Shmuel, and we had a different brisa that was not like that, that if the slave is allowed to go out with the chais and the emblem shibit savar, we had a contradiction. Could he go out with the emblem around his neck? So the Gemara says you don't have to say that, one of them is talking about that his master made it, and one's talking about that he made it, where the master made it, you would say that, okay, then it's mutter. He made it, then you would say it's asur. And Rashi explained why the Gemara didn't want to say that, which that seems to be a good resolution, like we actually explained regarding Kabul. No, both of them is that his master made it for us. How do we understand? The Brisa says you're allowed to go out with it was talking about when it's made out of clay. Clay's not going to take it off because his master made it, and if it breaks, it's not going to come to carry it. The Brisa says it's forbidden. It's talking about that it's made out of metal. That's something that makbid Rabbi, because it's metal, it's expensive. And therefore, if it breaks, he's going to come to carry it, and that's why he can't go out with it. The one made out of clay is permitted because he's not going to take it off, and if it does break, he's not going to come to carry it. Now, additionally, the Brisa had said that zeh v'zeh, both types of the metal types of emblems, whether it be on his garment or on his neck, they're not makabel tama. But that's what we have to infer. But their kalim are makabel tama, because had it been regarding shaltit, it would not have been the case. Because anyways, no kelei vessels are makabel tama. And that was the raya that the second verse talking about mateches, which was proving the point about resolution. Then initially we said that the slave cannot go out with the bell. Here we transferred to the belt on his neck, because it might become detached and he might come to carry it. But on his garment we said he's permitted. Why? What's that double standard? Is because mecha by mumcha, which is arug. When we say woven, we didn't make the gzeres over there, though it's different than the previous stuff. They're woven, we didn't make the gzer because it's not going to be chatzitza. But as Rashi and Tais both explain, but as in general, when it's woven, we make the gzer that includes even over here, because it's not going to fall off from his garment, and therefore it's permitted. That we don't have the concern it might fall off and might come to carry it. We had a contradiction if the bell of an animal, which we brought in animals because it was the same theme as the slave, and additionally regarding hitzah and tuma. So we had a contradiction if the bell of an animal is makabel tuma. The first brisa says that it's not makabel tuma. The second brisa says it is makabel tuma. So the question is not a difficulty. If there's a clapper, then it's makabel tuma. Why? Now, a bell itself is not a takshit for an animal. There's no halach of takshit of tuma for an animal. Oh, you know why? It will make it a vessel because it makes noise. And we have a pasuk that says by metal vessels it makes noise, makabel tuma. Because it says kol davar she'el beish, which that could be dibur, which that's making noise, and therefore yes, it's makabel tuma when there's a bell. And the brisa says it's not makabel tuma when there's no bell. Then, this that we said, so wait a second. Are you telling me it's talking about when it's Torah the brisa? It's talking about because there's no bell. So wait a second. Why then by the Adam, by the Eved, did we say that his bell is makabel tuma? What do you mean? But there's no clapper. Yeah, because by an adult slave, it's a takshit. There's no takshit for a slave, for a behema, but for a slave, a bell is a takshit. But wait a second, didn't I have a brisa that says by cotton it's going to be tar without an imbel? What's that double standard? Didn't you say a person doesn't need a clapper? By the child you do need? Yes, because by a child it's made to make noise. So therefore it's not a kli, but by adult it's a takshit. It's not to make noise, and therefore it's makabel tuma. Then the brisa ended off regarding the bell, although it needs the clapper to be makabel tuma, but if it had it and then it was taken away, the tuma retains it. The question is why? Why isn't that considered shivrei kli? Why is that not removing it from the tuma? That's for what utility does it have without the clapper? So Abaye said because the head you could put it right back in. So we don't consider it as broken as a shina ma'isa because it's still you could just put it right back in. And that Rabbi rejects it. From the case of a brisa, it talks about the bell and the clapper, which, like we said, the person could put it back, and we know it's makabel tuma only when it's attached because we compare it to the case of the scissors, which we see clearly there that it's only when it's attached. So rather, Rabbi gives a different interpretation. Says since you're right, the clapper is not makabel tuma anymore, but the bell, since you could bang it on a kli cheres, it's not going to be considered as if it would lost its original semblance of its original work of making noise because you can bang on kli cheres, and therefore yes, the impulse can be tar, but the zug is still makabel tuma, even though it's considered shivik kli because it's not a shivik kli because you can still use it as original a concept of making noise, and therefore it's still considered the kli that it was made for, which was by the child, which was to make noise, and still be able to make noise when you bang on a kli cheres. Thank you for any time for hosting.